Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. Welcome viewers to Apex TV here. We are very fortunate today to have one of an important guest with us, Dr. Shaheen Chaudhry, who is the High Sheriff of the City and County of Bristol. Welcome, Dr. Sahiba.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, pleasure. Tell us, what is the role of the High Sheriff?
My role is to ensure that the judiciary is working appropriately, and that includes the judges in Crown Court, sitting with them, providing hospitality for them, but also to welcome them into the city when they come in the first instance. In the days of old, I would have welcomed them in my horse and carriage, but in these days we are using the automobile, the car, and I go and see them in their lodgings, and then, as I say, provide hospitality for them as well. The other is to ensure the whole judiciary is working properly. That includes the police, the probation, victim support, and also any other related services to do with the judiciary. So that's the main. Secondly is to help the Lord Lieutenant when the royalty come a visiting, and be supportive in that context. And thirdly, to raise money for BICA, which is the Bristol Youth Community Action in Bristol, very much akin to Crime Beat, and to provide holiday activities for disadvantaged children in vulnerable areas, really, in the city, in the inner city areas of Bristol. So those are the main responsibility, but along with that is also what I really enjoy as well, is the visiting various groups.
Right.
And I have met some. I have lived in Bristol for many years, but I didn't realize so much work was being carried out by volunteers in the city, providing very necessary services, and expecting nothing in return. And these are people who've identified a need, and they feel this is how it must be done, and they just get on with it. So I'm very humbled by all the work that is being done voluntarily in the city. And my theme for my year is young adults and mental health, because it's one area which is very much neglected, both by the NHS and by other authorities in terms of resources. We don't have enough qualified nurses, mental health nurses, and we don't have qualified psychiatrists and psychologists, particularly in the Southwest. So this is something I'm trying to raise awareness of amongst our community, particularly the BME community, because there is an ostrich mentality, I'm sorry to say, amongst our community, and they think that enough prayers, yes, prayers are helpful, but there has to be other help, support required very often for their children. And if the youngsters don't have a good quality of life, then I think we are failing in our duties as adults, and we must do everything we can to ensure that they have a better life whilst they're young, because they're going to be the one looking after us in our old age.
Yes.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Well, that's a tremendous and very, very, I think, great responsibility. I think we both have two things in common. One, that like you, I was the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yes.
And we've been chasing Robin Hoods all around, maybe we'll find in Bristol.
Yes.
And secondly, you work with younger people.
Yes.
Now, you are not a counsellor, and
No.
How did you get to this position? What is the process? How are you chosen, or
Yes. Yes.
who decides that?
Well, the actual process of the nominating for a High Sheriff in the first instance is carried out by the Shrievalty Committee that we have in Bristol. They are made of previous high sheriffs, current high sheriff, and future high sheriffs. There is a committee which meets 4 times a year to discuss any other issues, but also be supportive as well. So they will, in the first instance, look for somebody who must be living in the city.
Right.
Secondly, they must have some background information regarding the charitable that they do. Thirdly, is also ensure that they're not in any politically aligned to any politics or parties. That's very important to do that. Once that is achieved, then they are approached, and I was approached by Professor Timothy Chambers, who is now the Vice Lord Lieutenant of Bristol, and he knew me from my days as a magistrate.
Right.
Which is nearly 22 years. I've been a magistrate in Bristol, but also when I was a non-executive director of North Bristol NHS Trust, and also from when I was a lay member on the General Medical Council at tribunals.
Right.
So he's known me in that way. But he did some more homework as well.
Right.
Obviously, this is a position where some background information, almost like a CRB, needs to be carried out. And the names are then put forward to the Lord Lieutenant, and then the Lord Lieutenant will submit them to the Queen, the Privy Council, and then the Queen, who will make the final decision. And she does the pricking ceremony early in March, which is handed down from Elizabeth I, I'm told, where she was doing some embroidery at the time when the names of the future high sheriffs were presented to the Queen Elizabeth I, and she didn't want to get up and use a quill to do that, so she pricked using a needle the names that she was happy with, and subsequently it's called the pricking ceremony.
Oh, right. That's very interesting. What is your own background? You come from Pakistan?
Yes, I was born in Quetta. My father was in the Air Force, and then he was transferred to this country, and we joined him 3 years later, and I grew up in the southwest really. I'm settled in since the early 70s in Bristol, so I've grown up, my secondary education, my university, it's all been in Bristol itself, yes.
Okay.
But I'm in a very privileged position that I feel comfortable both in this culture but also in my culture back home as well, and I'm proud to be a Pakistani as well.
Good, good. It must have given sort of a lot of pleasure and happiness to your own community as well. Bristol is very much a multicultural community and so on. How has the local community, particularly the Pakistani community, felt when you were nominated or appointed?
Well, personally, I was very humbled to be given this privilege, but the community itself has been very supportive. Once they've realised what it actually meant, it's been very supported. So any functions that I've had in terms of raising the funding for the High Sheriff's charity, the biker that I mentioned before for young adults, they've been very, very supportive in that. But at the same time, I've also made sure that not just the Pakistani our own community, but also the other diverse community like the Polish, the Chinese, the Jewish, the Indian, the Sikhs, and the new arrivals, the Kurdish we have. They've all been aware. I've sent letters to their heads or community members, representatives, and hopefully they know where I am, how to be contacted. And what I've said is that I'm a facilitator, so that if I may know, because of my knowledge of the city, I may know of somebody who can help a community member because they have a particular problem. I may not be able to solve it myself, but I may know of somebody who can. So in that way, I see myself as a facilitator to opening doors for them, which they may not be able to do so. And one of them I'm fairly involved in currently is the BME community in business. Our people are very entrepreneurial, very hardworking. You know, from the sweat of their brow, they will earn their pennies. But they come to a stage where they're stuck. They don't know how to go further. They're not around the decision-making tables, the big decision-making table. So I'm opening doors for them, so that they are involved in that. And Bristol is now becoming very, very, building work is going on. There's a lot of banking and insurance coming in, and this is where our community needs to have a voice.
Right.
I'm trying to ensure that happens, but also my successor is aware of that, so the work is not just in my year, but my successor will carry it on as well.
This is for 1 year.
This is for 1 year.
Okay. So, have there been any other Pakistani women in this position before you, or you're the first one?
I'm the first one that I'm aware of
Right.
in the country from a Muslim background.
Okay.
I'm sure there have been other from the BME community, but not from my Muslim Pakistani background that I'm aware of.
How has it affected your own life, family, how they see it? You are obviously not just a mother, not just a wife, but you have different roles and demands and so on.
Yes.
How it has affected you as a woman?
Well, I've always been driven and by challenge as well. So if there isn't a new challenge, then I feel very apathetic, and I don't like that state at all. I think it's inherited from my father, because he's a very driven person as well. And bless him, he was very proud on the day of my declaration. He really was. And he's been very supportive as well, along with my husband, of course, because you cannot do this work without your husband or wife's support in this. It's very important to have that. I'm also, as you say, I'm not just the High Sheriff, I'm also their grandmother as well. And that is my greatest achievement, having the 4 grandchildren. My children as well. But I think you need to be just disciplined. You know what you need to prioritize, and I've had that experience, because in the late 80s I set up my own organization, which was to provide language support for different communities, particularly women going through the NHS whilst they were pregnant. So I started with that, but alhamdulillah we managed to have it from cradle to the grave after 16 years. And that in itself taught me a lot about communication, about working as a team, working with other people, getting their confidence, and also their trust as well. It's very important to have the community trust. But at the same time, retaining your individuality, at the same time retaining self-respect, but also respect for other people. I think that's very important to maintain that. And your roots as well, and be proud of your roots.
Yeah, you obviously have seen all sides of the community, both as a Pakistani, as a family, with a sort of very close-knit family in different positions. What are the main issues you think that our community is facing today, or what should we be doing, particularly from your point of view, when you see the various issues developing and conflicts, and what you think that are the main things affecting our community?
I think at the moment the media is very much against the Muslims per se, and the situation nationally that has happened doesn't help either. Very recently we have the Nairobi situation. Prior to that we had, lots of other things have come up since 9/11. We've had a very bad press in the community. So it's by example that all of us, we must lead in terms of what a Muslim should behave as. That is to be careful and considerate to your neighbor, to your community, and to help each other. And I think it's one of those areas which we must again and again reinforce that, particularly amongst our youngsters, because bless them, they're hot-headed. And if something happens, the first thing they'll do is to have a clash. And that doesn't achieve anything for anybody. And so we must be, at all times, have a dignified approach to anything we do, because at the end of the day, acting in a Sherman tank approach does not achieve anything. So that's one thing, one issue that with the youngsters we must have. The other is that our youngsters need to really get their head down, particularly the boys, and get on with achieving good education. There's so many possibilities here. Let's not waste them. Let's get on with it. Get our head down and do it. It's not about getting quick money. It's about having long-term plans, and we must have positive role models for these young boys as well. We are lacking those. They're looking at other ways to get their role models, and those are not positive role models at all. I consider it to be. So this is one thing. The second is our parents need to actually be open-minded and to know that if the areas that their children want to go into, like nursing, instead of being a doctor, that is a good opportunity to go for it. Mental health nursing, our parents are not very happy for their daughters to be going into that. Why not? You know, it's about being more informed, so opening more doors for our children. Thirdly is they want to recruit, like the police force would like to recruit more of our youngsters, but again, they don't come forward. Yet we sit there and we blame and we say, well, they're not representing the community. You know, we can't have it all, everything our way, and then blame as well. So it's about working together. We are living in this country now. In each of our community, we have something to contribute. We must get over this working voluntarily as well. There are areas which can help us achieve and gain something positive. It doesn't matter what age you are. Giving voluntarily your time is such a benefit to yourself personally and to others as well. So those are the areas that I'm really raising awareness in my year, doing it. And you have to do it by example, I'm afraid. And that's how we're trying to do that.
Dr. Tell me, what are your future plans? What are your, I mean, you've done various things in the community and in this now honourable position. What next?
What next? I want to really carry on because I'm very passionate about working in mental health area. I am already a lay member on the mental health tribunal. So I sit on tribunal, not this year because I've had to step down, but I'm going to take up my year next year, is do more work on tribunal, but also to raise awareness that in the community, to have people who are service users to talk to non-service users, and maybe they can learn from each other. That what the possibilities are, how our children can be, young people can be supported, or because we're living longer now, we are developing more of the old age disorders. So Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, those are the things which possibly could happen to us, and we need to be aware of that. So it's about raising awareness, but also getting the authorities to work more together on this. So the NHS is not working in a silo, the criminal justice system is not working in a silo, but actually communicating across. So once they have somebody in the criminal justice system who is suffering from mental health, they're not going to be taken to the prisons, but actually given the support, proper diagnosis, and the support and medication to help them to get a better quality of life. That's my passion for the future. I want to do, and enjoy my grandchildren growing up as well.
Good. Thank you so much, Dr. Saiba. It's a pleasure to have you here, and joy to hear all your past experiences and your wonderful work now, and I'm sure that you will be a great role model, and we look forward to seeing you more and more in this part of the world as well, and learn from your experiences, and we wish you best of luck for the remaining months.
6 months.
6 months that you are in office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.